Hello, my friends, and welcome. I'm going live a minute or two early this morning, but I was ready, so I thought, why not? Okay, let's get our Instagram folks on here as well. Okay, looks like we're good to go. I've got coffee in hand. I have such a tickle in my throat these days, and so, why not soothe it with coffee is my thinking. Nita's here, Darlene is here. Can't believe I actually got the notification in time today. I'm glad. Sometimes comes in late during the live, you noted, and I'm sorry about that. Doing my best. But welcome very much. I am Susan Smith. You are in my studio, Stitched by Susan. Today I have coffee in hand in case I need a sip of liquid to calm the cough in the throat, the tickle. Talking today about whether or not top and bobbin threads should match or not, and why or why not when you're machine quilting. So let's just take a moment and chat while a few more people join in. Gaynor, good evening. I know you're from South Africa, so yes, evening for you. Janice in New York State, Samantha, Scarlett, Tracy, another Susan, Denise. Good, good, good. Let me know if sound levels or view are not okay, and I'll try and keep an eye on things. Okay, coming live to you, by the way, every day during the month of April with these casual chats about machine quilting related topics. They're not lessons, definitely not lessons. And I welcome those of you that get in as part of the conversation, because do I know everything about machine quilting? No, I do not. I've completed a little over 1,300 quilts so far, most of them freehand. So I know something about freehand quilting, but there's always something to learn. And I appreciate those of you who give your comments and tips because you've had different experiences than I have. So that is awesome, and I appreciate it. Okay, looks like lots of folks are on. So we're going to dive into today's topic. I'm going to get one more sip in. Such good coffee. Nothing like coffee in the mornings. All right, today we're talking about whether or not the top thread and the bobbin thread should match, and why or why not. And I actually had someone message me yesterday saying, she had pink thread in one and purple in the other, and she was saying, they keep showing, and I've adjusted the tension, and they keep showing on the other side. And I did take a moment to answer her, but that's what kind of gave me the idea for fleshing out this topic today, because I think it's a really common one. We get quilts that have, maybe a print plus a white or cream background on the top, and then they'll have a darker backing, and we think, well, I don't want my white or cream thread on the backing. Oh, we're frozen again. Hang on. Let me try and readjust my camera. Thanks, you guys. So you see me on my webcam for a moment while I try and get the other one readjusted. Thanks, you guys. I appreciate it. We'll get things going, and sorry if you get a view down my shirt while I try and zoom in a little bit on this. Try not to be too awkward. You get to see my whole arm. Looks like we're not getting a zoom in today. Well, it is what it is. Anyway, we're back on camera. I've got everything plugged in so securely. I'm not sure what more to do there. Anyway, back to the topic. Top and bobbin thread. What happens if you've got a backing that's quite different from some of the fabrics or the thread that you want to use on the top of the quilt? And it just so happens that I have a great example to show you. I'll be loading this later today. This belongs to my good friend Pris, and it's red and white and half square triangles, fairly simple piecing. But this is a classic example. You've got red and white on the front of the quilt, and I want to use a pale thread on the top. I don't want red thread on the white areas. So what I'm choosing to use is this thread right here, and I maybe should hold it up with the quilt. Not sure how well this will translate on camera, but this is Isocord 0184, which is a recent obsession with me. It's a very pale, kind of silvery gray, kind of slightly taupe color, and on white fabric, it looks like a shadow. So I can get away with using this on white, even though I typically would not put a gray thread on something that's got white in it. But it works, it works. So again, I used my technique of pooling the thread, right? I've done that lots of times, and now I've done quite a few quilts with it, and I know already that I like it. So that's the thread I've chosen for the front of the quilt. And I will show you the backing too. It so happens that Pris is doing something light as well on the backing. So I'm good to go. My light thread is going to work in both places. And by the way, this is so Pris. Let the beauty of what you love be what you do. I love it. There's so many great little comments in this newsprinty fabric. But What would happen if Pris instead had chosen one of these red fabrics? One of the deepest ones in particular for the backing of this quilt. What would I do then? And my mind might go toward, well, let's put red thread on the back of the quilt. Wouldn't that be pretty? Just checking my comments again. Hang on, you guys. Fixed. Yeah, it is fixed. I just unplugged and replugged it in, the camera. So frustrating. I've put a brand new cable on and everything. I'm not sure what else to do. Anyway, what happens if I try to put red thread on the bottom of the quilt while I've got something pale on the top? I'll tell you what happens. Even if my tension is perfect, that red thread is apt to show, it's going to show through, literally through the needle holes on my white fabric on the top. So this is why, to my way of thinking, it is just not a good plan to have highly contrasting threads top and bottom. So I go for matching or very close to matching, and I always do it. That's just my thinking. Now, I may be influenced as to what I choose for both by the backing. That's a possibility. But ultimately, I want the top of the quilt to look the very best. So even if Pris had chosen a red backing on this quilt, I would be using this thread top and bottom. At the most, I would consider doing a shade or two darker. But honestly, I would hesitate even over that. Because I have white in those half square triangles on the front, and this already is a shade darker than the white, I hate to have yet a deeper gray showing through on the needle holes of that white. So for the purposes of this quilt, I'm using this one top and bottom. Even if I had a red backing, I would go with this top and bottom. Now, if my half square triangles were something different, say I have a quilt that's got cream and then it's got, I keep using Kansas City Troubles as an example, but many of you know what that is, the golds, the browns, the sage greens, the rich blues. Perhaps I had a cream with that and my backing was like a brown, right? Then I might think of using a deep cream on the top and a deeper taupe on the bottom. So there I could get away with that wider span of shades because that taupe is less likely to show through the needle holes. So I'm curious what all of you think about this. This has just been my experience that even if you have perfect tension, it's going to show. And it literally is showing through the needle holes. You're just getting that bit of reflection. And the paler your fabric is on the top, the more apt it is to show. So with white fabric, you have to be really careful. But you definitely can't go white red, white navy, white black, and expect the stitches not to show through top and bottom. It's not going to happen. May is asking the brand of the light gray thread. It is Isacord. The color again is 0184. And I'm going to get a sip of my magic elixir here. I feel a cough coming on. I will try really hard not to cough into the microphone. Burst your eardrums for you. Scarlet, I usually use the same color in the bobbin just so it doesn't show. I'm with you on that. And like I said, I've said it in a few ways, but I'll say it again. I will sometimes vary the shade a little bit. Or if I've got, you know, a rich gold on the top, I might possibly maybe put a similarly rich green or blue on the bottom when I don't have pale fabrics on the top that's going to show through so specifically. So use a similar hue or saturation, but most often I go for matching or just 1 or 2 shades apart. That is my most common. And matching is certainly the easiest. Then you never have to worry about it. And even if your tension does go off a teeny tiny hair near the end of your bobbin or something like that, it won't show as much because those threads are the same. And that's just an advantage you might as well have. Darlene, would the bottom threads still show through the stitching holes after laundering? I usually wash my quilts before gifting them. I don't know if I can speak to that conclusively, Darlene, because most of my quilts are for clients and I quilt them and they go out the door. So I do have quilts in my house. Few of them have white on them, so I'm not a really good judge of that. I don't personally risk it, and when I'm handing it back to the client, I don't want those threads to be showing then. So I choose not to risk it. Maybe other people want to chime in with their experience with that after laundering them. Janneke, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. Hello from Holland. So awesome. Because of you, I now use Isacord and I love it. It is a great thread. And by the way, the 100% poly is the quality I love best. So there are other brands that are great too. I just happen to have a lot of colors in Isacord, and so I'm familiar with those colors. Glide thread works beautifully too. Wonderfill is another great one. There are a number of 100% poly threads, which I love at the long arm machine, at a high-speed machine. Katie Wells, I always try to match top and bottom. I hate those pokies. I'm with you. Suzette, do customers often specify the thread color they want, or do they give you artistic freedom to choose? What's mute? Hang on one second, you guys. Mr. Producer's at the door here giving me input. So no one is saying that there's no sound. Is anyone having trouble with sound? He's finding me muted. But I'm looking at my sound levels here and it looks good. You guys are not chiming in and I'm getting a thumbs up now, so I'm going to keep proceeding. Okay, Suzette is asking, and I'll toss this up on the broadcast, do customers often specify the thread color they want, or do they give you artistic freedom to choose? Some of both, Suzette. And typically when customers come into my studio and we discuss the quilt, then I'll bring out several threads and get their take on it. But I do get quite a lot of mail-in quilts as well. And mostly for those, most of them are long-term clients anyways, so they'll just say, you choose and go with it, and they trust my taste on that. But it varies. Janice, I usually do same or similar in the same family. It's a safe bet. Elizabeth, so if top fabric is many different colors, do you change top thread to match fabric? Super question. You might want to refer back, Elizabeth, to an earlier episode in these April Live snippets when I talked about choosing a thread for a multicolor quilt. Much of my quilting is edge to edge, so I'm not stopping in the different fabrics. I'm quilting the same thing over the whole quilt top, so I do pick a thread that goes well with all of them. And in that daily snippet, I talked a little more about my rationale for that and how I choose one of those colors or which color to go with that. So I typically don't change the thread to match fabric unless I'm doing a custom quilting project where I'm doing something within specific blocks or areas or borders. And then, yes, I may change. Abby says hi. Scarlett, I hear you. Good, good. Someone else, Heather, is also asking, when the quilt is washed, will the contrasting threads still show through the needle holes? My sense tells me that it will be better and perhaps will be totally eliminated when you wash it. But again, I'm always giving my quilts back to the clients when they're fresh off the long arm, and I don't want those pokies to show through. So I play it safe and I go with that matching thread. A few of you are chiming in, you can hear. That's great. Thank you. I'm just scrolling to see. Lots of you are saying you hear, and that's great. I'm just scrolling through them. I'm so sorry. I was trying so hard not to cough. It was just right there. Right there. So many of you are chiming in about the sound, which I sure appreciate. Okay, here's an idea. I quilted fabric for a backpack with warm and stable in the center, lining cream with small flower, and canvas navy. What color thread would you have used? Excuse me again. In that case, I think I would go with the navy simply because that's what's on the outside and is going to show, and that's what's most important to me. I would do navy on both. The lining is just going to be seen much less often by people, and I certainly wouldn't want the cream to be showing up on the navy. That would really not look great. Now, I have not worked often with warm and stable, and this is another point that I could make. I've known quilters who do a double layer of batting when they want to do different threads because that thicker puff will hide some of those pokies from showing through, if you know what I mean. So soft and stable might do a similar dampening effect. Mary Ellen, I love this. Men often have us on mute. Isn't that the truth? I hope Mr. Producer's listening. He's right after you. Here we go. Let's put his up. Hang on a sec. Takes me a minute to get one off. Put the other one on. Connect to Bluetooth, hence no sound. Never listen to the tech guy. He's so great. Got to have a sense of humor. Katie's asking, are you putting the same brand in top and bobbin? Not always. To me, color is more important than brand. I'm not going to last very much longer, you guys. But I do, I'm very fond of Deco Bob thread in the bobbin because it's 80 weight and you can get a lot more on a bobbin. So it's still 100% poly, many of the same qualities, but different brand, and it works absolutely fine. Samantha, is there ever a situation where you would match more for the backing fabric than the front? Absolutely. Each quilt is unique, and I would certainly consider the backing fabric and possibly use that color if I thought that's what looked good on the front as well. Absolutely. Okay, yeah, Mr. Producer is listening. Good for him. Marie Suzanne, I'm too challenged by my tension management to not match thread. And I'm with you on that. It's an advantage, and you might as well take advantage of it. Little tension inconsistencies can be smoothed right out by matching those threads. Well, you guys, there's more coughs where those came from, so I'm going to sign off for today. Check back again tomorrow, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you next time.